You make of the explanation that it was because of a pump malfunction that they left?
I would not leave anyone else's child on an island. I would not leave anyone else's child stranded. You can give all the excuses you want, but you do not leave someone else's child anywhere.
The boat left without him. That part everyone agrees on. But here's what nobody can agree on. What happened in the hour before it did? Because somewhere between 3 o'clock and the moment that engine roared to life, two different stories started forming. One says he chose to stay. One says he never got the chance to leave. And the gap between those two stories is where this case lives right now. Before we go further, I need you to do something for me. If you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on that bell, because we're following this case in real time. And there are families out there, real families, still waiting, still grieving, who need their stories told with more than just a headline. Every like, every comment, every share tells the people watching that somebody out there still cares about the truth. This isn't just content to us. It's someone's son. So if the story moves you even a little, don't scroll past it. Stay with us. Let's talk about who Nolan actually was, because the internet has already turned him into a symbol, a headline, an argument. But before any of that, he was just a kid who apparently never met a stranger. People who knew him described someone who lit up a room, who checked in on people, who wanted peace between everybody around him. Teachers remembered him as respectful, hardworking, the kind of student who made their job easier. Coaches remembered him as the kind of teammate every locker room needs. Not the loudest voice, but the steady one. An athlete, a son, a brother. The kind of person whose absence doesn't just leave grief. It leaves a hole shaped exactly like him. And that's what makes the contradictions so unsettling. Because if you knew Nolan the way his family describes him, he chose to stay behind alone on an island with no way home doesn't sit right. His own father said it plainly. That's not his character. If you're taught your whole life that you stick with a group, you don't wander off from on a strip of land with no water, no shelter, and no phone signal. So either something changed his mind that day, or somebody else's version of events isn't lining up with what really happened. Think about the setting for a second, because it matters. This wasn't a public beach with lifeguards and self-service. It was a stretch of wilderness reachable only by private boat, hours from real help, the kind of place where a mistake doesn't get a second chance. Whatever happened that afternoon happened somewhere nobody could reach him if things went wrong. That detail alone should sit heavy with you. Now here's where it gets tense. There are two accounts of that final conversation on the beach, and they don't match. One version says Nolan told a friend he was heading back to the boat with the group. Another says he told the group he was staying behind to talk with someone. Two stories. Same afternoon. Same beach. Only one of them can be true. And right now, nobody outside that circle knows which one it is. And then there's the phone. When it was finally returned to his family, messages were missing, deleted.
So when we made it home, my sister and I actually went through Nolan's cell phone, particularly Snapchat, because that is so popular with the children. And when we opened it up, there was nothing. There were no saved pictures. There were no snaps from that day. And we did open it before the 24-hour expiration. So we found that very concerning, only because anyone who's ever been around Nolan will tell you at social gatherings, he's taking videos, he's taking pictures, he's even come up to me when I'm getting ready to go to bed, hey Ma, come on, take a picture of me. You know, like that was Nolan. So that's why we feel that things may have been deleted, was because of the fact that there was nothing in either one of his accounts.
Now, phones get wiped for all kinds of reasons, and we're not saying anyone did anything wrong. But when a phone comes back empty right after someone dies under unclear circumstances, your mind doesn't stay quiet. It starts asking questions. What was on there? Who deleted it? And why would anyone need to? Layer onto that a video, one that reportedly shows Ray's voices, some kind of argument breaking out on that boat earlier in the day. Investigators say they've seen nothing pointing to foul play, but nothing pointing to it yet and nothing happened are two very different sentences, and a lot of people online noticed the difference immediately. So we've got a contradiction in the final conversation, a phone with deleted messages, an argument caught on camera, and a family who says none of it adds up to the son they raised. Stay with me, because what comes next changes the entire tone of this investigation. The sheriff's office said something early on that was supposed to calm people down. They said there was no foul play suspected. For a lot of families, that sentence would be a relief. For this one, it became a spark. Because a phrase like that, said too early, before toxicology even comes back, doesn't read as reassurance to a grieving mother.
And we know he's with God, and that we will not forget him or the joy that he's brought to us.
Maya, can you elaborate on why there's so much distrust here between Nolan Wells' parents, state, and local law enforcement right now?
Rev, I think you said it perfectly. There are too many questions to be closing this off, to be ruling anything out right now. And for officials to say that they expect no foul play before the investigation, before witnesses, before all the physical evidence has really been taken into account is what's causing so many people, including Nolan's family, to be confused here. They are asking for full transparency. This is the reason why they're requesting the independent autopsy, so they'll be able to compare what the state tells them and what this independent autopsy tells them. But time and time again in this country, especially in the South, especially for Black and brown Americans, we've seen stories like this that are so painful and really hit a nerve, I think, with all Americans, because it's a cycle that keeps repeating. Regardless of the outcome, it is a story and a framework that hits a nerve.
It reads like a door being closed before the investigation even opened it. Law enforcement analysts have since said that phrasing was probably a mistake, that what they likely meant was there were no obvious signs of anything criminal. Not that everything had been ruled out, but words matter, especially in a case like this. And once trust starts slipping, every official statement gets read twice, 3 times for what it isn't saying. That silence didn't stay contained to just the immediate investigation, either, because as the days went on, another layer entered the conversation. The fact that Nolan appeared to be the only Black teenager in a group of mostly white friends that day. And once that detail surfaced, it changed how a lot of people were reading everything else. The deleted messages, the argument on the boat, the phrase no foul play. Suddenly none of it felt neutral anymore to a huge portion of the public. National voices got involved. Civil rights leaders called for transparency, invoking painful history from that same region, a history where young Black men have not always gotten the thorough investigation they deserved. Others close to Nolan pushed back on that framing, saying his death shouldn't be reduced to a single narrative before all the facts are in. Both of those reactions are worth sitting with, because they represent 2 different kinds of fear. One fear that the truth will be buried, another fear that the truth will get lost underneath the noise. That's when the family made a decision that tells you everything about how much faith they had left in the process. They flew their son's body out of state for an independent autopsy, performed by someone with 0 ties to local law enforcement. Think about what that decision actually means. A grieving mother, still not sleeping, still holding her husband's hand at press conferences, deciding she cannot fully trust a system that's supposed to give her the truth about how her own child died. That's not a small thing. That a mother telling the world, I need someone outside of this to confirm what happened to my son, because I'm not sure I believe the version I'm being given.
Any parent who, God forbid, would be in our situation, I would hope that you would do the same thing. I would hope that you would ask for any help, receive any help to get answers, because at the end of the day, that's all we want. We just want to know. We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home. Like that's our biggest thing.
And here's where the psychology of this case gets heavy. Because grief and suspicion start to blur together in moments like this. When you lose someone suddenly, especially someone young, especially someone healthy, the mind searches for a reason. Sometimes that search leads to the truth. Sometimes it leads somewhere else entirely. We're not here to tell you which one this is. We're here to lay out what's been reported and let you sit with it the way the family has had to sit with it for days without answers. Consider, too, what the search itself must have felt like for that family. Volunteer boats combing open water. Search agencies fanning out across a barren stretch of coastline with no shelter and no signal. Hour after hour, waiting for a call that never came the way they hoped. And then the moment it finally did come, it wasn't a phone call any parent wants. It was confirmation instead of rescue. That kind of ending doesn't just end a search. It starts a new one, a search for answers instead of a person. Because that's the cruelest part of a case like this. It's not just the loss. It's the not knowing, the toxicology results everyone's waiting on, the independent findings that were promised but haven't fully landed, the silence from a sheriff's department that stopped responding to media requests. Every one of those things stretches the wait a little longer, and every day that passes without an answer is another day this family has to keep grieving in public, with the entire internet forming its own theories in the comment section. So let's bring it back to you. If you were on that beach and heard two different people give two different accounts of the last thing Nolan said, which one would you believe and why? If a phone comes back wiped clean right after someone dies, does that automatically mean something was hidden? Or could there be an innocent explanation we haven't considered? And if a mother doesn't trust the official autopsy enough to fly her son's body across the country for a second opinion, what does that tell you about how she's experiencing this entire process? And when the public reads a case through the lens of race, does that bring us closer to truth, or does it risk deciding the ending before the facts are even in? We don't have the final answers yet. Nobody does. Not the family, not the investigators, not us. But we're going to keep watching this one closely, because the truth in cases like this doesn't always arrive with a headline. Sometimes arrives quietly weeks later in a lab report nobody expected. Tell us your theory in the comments. Which version of that beach conversation do you believe? And if you want to be here when the next update drops, make sure you're subscribed to 3 a.m. Files, because when the truth surfaces, we'll be the ones bringing it to you first.